Welcome back to the Interior Analysis Podcast. I am your host, Jelani Kelly.
And I'm Evan Westman.
And today we're doing the film Ready or Not. Mason suggested it a while ago, though I don't remember if that was on the podcast, but he referred to it as the modern day Clue. And we're here to figure out if it is and talk about some other things about it. So let's start off with a little side note thing here. Do you have any family traditions?
I actually ended up having a sort of a perfect answer to this because I was thinking it would be good if we did talk about a family tradition or like a hide and seek thing. And then I was like, wait, I can't think of any. But then I actually came up with, it's not that similar to what they do in this movie, thankfully. But we actually do have a family tradition in my house about hiding things. Whenever it's anyone's birthday, we do what's called a hide gift. Like, first thing of the day is everyone else hides a gift for, the person to find. And the rules of it have varied, especially because we've moved so much. And, when we go to a different house, sometimes it had a basement, sometimes it was only one floor, sometimes it was two. So the rules got very confused throughout the years, but we found some pretty fun spots with it throughout the years. There have been a couple times, when you turn 16, sometimes it's in the driver's seat of the car because, you're driving. A recent one that was pretty good, we hid one, on a coat rack underneath the coats. That wasn't half bad. Sometimes you, need help to find it, and we'll do, a hot or colder thing if you're, getting close to it. I was trying to ask everyone about, memorable hiding spots. I don't feel like we've had any, really good ones. I do remember in one house, though, because, sometimes you'll ask, top floor, bottom floor, and there was one house we lived in where there was, a halfway section on the staircase, and it was hidden in, an alcove there, so it wasn't top floor or the bottom floor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whose it was for that, but it threw them off a lot. But, yeah, that's pretty much my answer for that. What was yours?
I think I've said or mentioned it on the podcast before, family night with my dad and my brother. It's evolved over the years as we've grown up. Before when we were kids, it used to be Domino's pizza and we get one can of soda. We get to pick a can of soda because my dad would buy a 12-pack, but we get one can of soda a week. And I look forward to that every week. As we got older, currently, it evolved into just something simple like no phones. And we would also always sit down and watch a movie from the shelf that we had before streaming services and all that. But now it's evolved into no phones. We watch something. It doesn't even have to be a movie now. Yesterday we watched a comedy special, Cat Williams comedy special, and then we watched freaking 2-3 hours of battle rap on YouTube. And we always eat something. We always eat out now more than ever because nobody has time to cook and everybody's always freaking tired. I don't mind it because I prefer to eat out anyway, but yeah. But then once you mentioned the hiding gifts thing, so that's my tradition, but when you mentioned the hiding gifts thing, my dad did that sometimes during Christmas. He'd give my brother and I scavenger hunts. There was one I remember where he gave us 5 freaking gifts, and it was increasing in better and better order. I don't remember the first one I got, and it was in this a pretty small hiding area. It was all on the first floor, but we could not. He was able to hide them so well we couldn't find them the day before or anything like that. It's not like we went searching, but he was just really good at hiding them. It went increasing in how much he think we'd favor them. So I think it started with a Doctor Doom figure or something like that, because I think that year Rise of the Silver Surfer came out, the Fantastic Four movie, and I fell in love with Silver Surfer. But then it was a Yoda toy, and then Blackout from the first Transformers movie, which is the helicopter. Then I don't remember exactly what the fourth was, but the fifth was a Silver Surfer action figure, bro. Silver Surfer, I got him. I ended up never, like, almost never using the board. I just like the design of the dude himself. He looks like a freaking mascot. Yeah, that was another, like, tradition. I think he did use hot or cold because we had no clue. We were very young.
Yeah, we never did scavenger hunt things for ours.
Yeah.
Before we get into like our opinions on it, Mason sent in his comment because we're mostly doing this because he suggested it. Like, I think it was one of his most underrated of the decade. Yeah, that was on our decade recap podcast. So this was his comment. It's a little bit long, but I'm gonna read it. So he says, "While Ready or Not may not be a perfect movie, I found it to be a very enjoyable short watch, especially going in not knowing anything. Specifically because of all the members of the, I'm going to say this wrong, Ladoma's family are distinguishably different from each other, as opposed to Knives Out, where I felt the characters weren't memorable enough. There was a certain dark humor element to it that was similar to the essence of the 1985 cult classic Clue. All the jokes hit for me and have yet to get old. A standout scene for me was the use of the original song Hide and Seek as the Ladumas gathered their weapons, almost as if preparing for a fox hunt. Emily's character was a scene stealer, consistently killing the family's staff on accident. This is one of those movies that needs not to be looked at as something perfect, but just a good time. The twist at the end may come as unexpected, but that's the type of movie it is. Doesn't need to make sense to work. Probably one of my favorites of last year, but then again, this was very much a Mason movie. Less pretentious than usual, though. Worth visiting if you need to have a couple good laughs with a good cast and a great set." So that's the end of his comment. I can see where he's coming from with some of that. I mean, full disclosure, this was not one of my favorites. Like, I didn't hate it, but like, there's a lot more that I found to dislike than to like. But I think a lot of it was that I guess it was a taste thing, because like, I did laugh at a lot of points, but I didn't enjoy it that much. I will come out against him saying that like the family members are more distinct than in Knives Out. I really strongly feel the inverse of that.
Really?
I thought the family members in Knives Out were really distinct, and these ones, like, I could tell them apart, kind of, but like not really.
I don't remember whose wife was who, and no, they kind of muddled together after a few weeks of not watching it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could keep track of it well enough while I was watching it. I was, in terms of like how everyone was related, I couldn't keep track of that at all. Like, I think it took me half the movie to figure out that Andy McDowell's character was Alex's mom. I think it might have been a little cheap to have like the whole intro scene where it was like, this is this person, this is that person, but I also kind of felt like I needed that going forward. Because there was never, like, I think we met all the characters, but it was, like, really fast. Also, just one other thing before we get into it. I'm probably going to reference a lot of other movies this episode. I don't think I'm going to spoil them, except maybe Sorry to Bother You.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I think I can talk about it in a way that won't spoil it. But, yeah, I'm going to be referencing a lot of things in this. Did you have any like topics you wanted to start with, or like responses to Mason's comment?
I don't think it was a modern day Clue at all. I don't remember any of the jokes from that movie besides the ones where the maids kept getting shot, and then there was the one where one of the maids was shot with like an arrow accidentally, and she's kept gurgling or something. I kept cutting them off, and the grandma killed her. But besides that, nope. I remember there's so many quotable things from Clue. I've also seen it more. I saw Ready or Not twice over the course of 3 days, and I still don't remember anything from it. Any notable quotes. I do remember the one scene that stuck with me was the thing where she was trying to get out through the fence, and it was tearing at her flesh as she was squeezing through. That unfortunately stuck with me. Pretty much all the gore scenes with Grace was not good. It was ooh.
Yeah, we will definitely get to how it handles. I really want to talk about how this movie handles violence later, and not in like that it's controversial, just in that it's very weird, I think, the way it handles it.
Yeah. Also, I don't think Clue just had dark comedy. Like, it had comedy, like lighthearted comedy in it too. Like, before they started talking about the dead bodies and stuff, like, there was still a lot of comedic moments before that. And even during the whole dead body shenanigan, when they weren't talking about dead bodies, they were still being funny, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, and well, Clue also like it's trying to be funny the whole time. This is trying to be funny like occasionally.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be more funny.
I did too. Like I because I think it wants you to think of it as a comedy, but then it also rarely wants you to laugh. I felt like
Mm-hmm.
A lot of what this movie boils down to, I think, or like a lot of the issues I have with it is like it's trying to be too many things at once, and they just don't gel very well.
Do you want to jump to tonal confusion first?
You know what? Yeah, let's do that. So, I guess we've already mentioned this. Like, there is a lot of tone confusion in this. And not even that, like, you don't know what you're supposed to feel moment to moment. Like, when it wanted me to laugh, I laughed. There were some parts that were genuinely funny. Like, when the maids died, like, it's very clear that they want you to laugh. And they shoot it in a way that is kind of funny. But then, like, the other half of the time, like that fence scene you were talking about, or when she's in
The goat thing, the goat pen thing, yeah.
yeah, whatever that was, it looks more like a horse stable to me. But like that whole scene where she gets like her hand shot, and then there's the bit with the nail, like that was clearly not supposed to be funny. Like it was supposed to be like gory and horrific, and like you really can't have it both ways. It's not to say that like sometimes violence can be funny and sometimes it can't, but like within one movie you really have to commit, like, and it really got me thinking. Like after I watched this, I kind of realized every movie has its own take on violence. In everything that like features more than like a couple of moments of violence, like it equals something. And I don't even really want to get into this on like a like portraying violence responsibly thing, because like that's a whole different conversation that I don't know if I'm qualified to have. But like I really started realizing how many different things violence can kind of equal in a movie. Like when you're watching like Looney Tunes or like Home Alone, violence is supposed to be really funny, but it's also like harmless, you know. They come out with barely a scratch. Tarantino really wants you to have fun when like he's being insanely violent, and like I felt like there were some Tarantino-ish moments in this too.
Like with them blowing up at the end?
Yes, that felt extremely Tarantino. And then like we were saying, like Clue has some, I guess it's not so much like quote violence in that, but like when there is, it's funny, but there's consequences. Or like war movies, violence is horrific, or sometimes it's heroic. In Marvel movies, it's like mostly harmless, but like heroic. In The Matrix, violence is cool. In Mad Max, it's chaotic. In James Bond, violence is power. In Fight Club, violence is transformative. In like American History X, violence is hateful. In something like Spider-Man or Man of Steel, violence is destructive there. Game of Thrones, I would say, has a very strong take on it. Like violence in that show is ugly and it's painful, and like wants you to see that. In 300 or like boxing movies, violence is strength. In Star Wars, it's like it's morality and it's identity. In Pirates of the Caribbean, violence is selfish. In Harry Potter, violence is emotional. Like it, in all of those things, it has a very specific take on what it is. And here it's trying to be like four different things that clash, and it's like, you know, it ends up being very tonally dissonant, I thought. Do you have any like reactions to that? I know I went off a bit there.
Not really. I'm just trying to think of, it's probably horrific and funny with consequences, and then fun, and probably one other thing in there. I'm trying to think of the themes in themselves that you mentioned. That
yeah, well, it's not even always like themes. It's just like what it's framed as, kind of.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
even know if it's necessarily, a lot of times it can play into the philosophy of it, but a lot of times it's more just like the mood, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a movie about World War II to look like a Marvel movie during like the war scenes,
Yep.
because that just it's not the right tone. Like, it's possible to have a couple different things happening with it. You know, like, I don't think it messes things up if it's funny and also gross when there's violence. Like, Tarantino does that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It can, like, he uses like excessive amounts of blood, but it is also like he wants you to enjoy it, which a lot of people get uncomfortable with, understandably. But like, he clearly wants you to have that reaction, and like,
Mm-hmm.
even if you don't, they're not contradicting each other.
Right.
But in this, it's like it's trying to frame violence as like survival, but then half
Mm-hmm.
the time it's funny, and that really does not work.
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought with it. That was most of where the tonal confusion came from it. But also, like, it was with the characters too. And again, I don't remember the characters great, like we've been saying. I felt like these characters existed in like four different kind of realities. Like, some of them existed in like the real world, some of them existed in like Satanist land, and some of them were a little bit in in between. And like,
Mm-hmm.
even did you notice this? Like, I felt like a couple of the characters dipped into like some different accents. Again, I don't remember the name, but it was like the older guy. He
Yeah.
sounded normal, but whenever they were talking about Mr. LaBelle, he'd suddenly like
Yeah.
dip into that southern accent. Like,
Tony.
and then the one lady was like, I felt like I heard a German accent
Yeah.
at some point, but like, they're American, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how or why that happened, but it really grated against me. And I think it's, if that doesn't bother you, like, I'm not saying that should bother anyone, but like, it was really something that made me not enjoy this, and not like aggressively not enjoy it, but I was like, I'm not having fun here, because I don't, part of it's a taste thing too, because I'm not into movies that are all about like surviving an experience. Like, those never really jam with me that much, and I think they do with some people.
Mm-hmm.
But like, you know, when it wasn't trying to be funny, like, I wasn't having fun with it.
Mm.
I don't know if you felt the same with that.
I think I was still engaged, but like I said, I would have rather been funny the whole way through than switch to a horror movie halfway through when she's actually outside the house and running. Like, I'd say up until that point, it was kind of consistent, but then once she ripped her back open, it got just started to get confusing from there.
Do you feel like it counts as horror? Because, like, I don't remember there being any jump scares.
No, maybe survival horror, but no, like, I wasn't terrified at all. I was worried for her, like, you gotta get out of this, but not really. Like, I wasn't scared.
Yeah, it is. I don't really want to call it suspenseful, but something like that. And there are, like, demonic elements, I guess. What I thought evoked a horror vibe the most was that song that they played at the beginning. And
Yeah.
that is something I forgot to mention, that I do agree with Mason's assessment there. Like, that was a good song to use. It was, like,
Very creepy.
very creepy. Like, even I was listening to the score for this, and that was on there, and it came on, and I was like, oh, it was a little uncomfortable listening to that.
Yeah. My brother and I gave each other looks when the song started playing, and then they started counting down. I was like, bro, what is this? I don't like this.
Yeah, and like, that did it, like, I want to say that did a good job setting the tone, except they didn't continue it after that. Like, after that, it wasn't a horror movie anymore.
Can we talk about why tonal change doesn't work for movies like this? Like, why doesn't it work most of the time? I'm asking you because I'm not so sure.
I don't really know, because I don't know if there's anything that I've reacted to like this in terms of tonal change. I guess one example of something like that, and I know you might be a little bit upset by this, but I've felt this especially in like the last couple Avengers movies,
Mm-hmm.
where they try to be a little bit too light and fun at some moments where it feels like it should be a little bit heavier and darker.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nearly as big of a problem in those. I'll say that, but it does sometimes create an environment where it's like, I'm not sure if you want me to laugh right now,
Mm-hmm.
because they're like, like the final battle in Endgame, there's about as many quips in that as there are in every other moment of the MCU, like in terms of
Yep.
quip to minute ratio.
Yep.
And like it's exciting, but it's a super dramatic moment,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like it robs the weight away when they do that. I think that's a much less extreme example,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't ruin the movie. I think that's also like a taste thing with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know about like like major tonal shifts, because like the thing is, it in this it was very moment to moment. Like it wasn't as if it was going all the way through and then all of a sudden it got darker. All of a sudden it got like insane and funny. It was like half and half, and it flipped between them a bunch of times.
Yeah.
I don't know, because tonal shifts aren't bad in themselves. Like that's that's what can create, like, sometimes you can have a movie that's hilarious and then all of a sudden near the end there's like a very deep emotional moment, and like a lot of people will start crying and it wants you to.
Mm-hmm.
There's shows that kind of thrive off that. Like I mean, we've been talking about it, so Community I think is a show that does that really well, where it is funny, but it also, like, it can change to being kind of deep and heartfelt sometimes.
Those winger speeches, bro.
Yes, yes, the Winger speeches.
Zingers. Oh, I hate Pierce. I'm just saying that. Put that on the record. I don't like him as a character. I never liked him as a character. He's an awful character.
I will concur with that. I mean, we're gonna get into Community eventually, but like one of the major things I wanted from that show was more time with the other six without Pierce.
Yep. Yep. I don't think he was a necessary character at all.
Hard agree.
Like, they could have made Chang the villain. And Chang was funny. Pierce is just unfunny and racist. Like,
Yeah, I think part of it is the legacy of Chevy Chase, because no one else was really big going before that show except him.
yeah.
No, I agree though.
Was Donald Glover not? Like, was Childish Gambino after this or during?
I don't know. I've only really been getting into Gambino since watching the show, and I haven't seen any songs from him dated before 2011, and the show started in
Mhm.
'09, so I don't think so.
Okay.
Joel McHale, I know, makes a very small appearance in the second Spider-Man movie, but that's all I've seen him in otherwise, at least prior to that.
Gambino was in. Oh, I keep calling him. Donald Glover was also in the first. He was in Homecoming, but
That's
he's,
way
he's
late.
yeah, but he's supposedly supposed to be like playing Miles Morales' uncle, the one that's a villain or something.
Hmm.
That's just a little fun fact for y'all. I mean, they're still doing stuff now. I haven't seen them in anything I've been watching, anything I guess quote unquote of note. I don't know where Jillian Jacobs has been. I don't know where Yvette Nicole Brown has been. Ken Jeong is kind of all over the place still.
Yeah,
Um,
he's been in a lot of stuff, not necessarily
Yeah.
starring, but he's in stuff.
I just saw a Mortal Kombat animated movie, Mortal Kombat Legends Scorpion's Revenge, with Joel McHale as one of the main characters, Johnny Cage. Very enjoyable hearing him as that. Like, he fit the role perfectly. He's pretty much animated Jeff.
Hmm.
Yeah, other than Donald Glover and Joel McHale, they don't seem to be doing much. I know Allison Brie was in Glow after this, but I didn't see Glow.
Yeah, the other ones aren't really, I guess, so much. No, Danny Pudi is actually, he's in that new Apple Plus show. I'm trying to, it's like, it's the one about them making a video game. I'm blanking on the name right now.
the night one where they're like on dragons or something in the trailer.
I think so. It's like Mystic Quest or something, Mythic Quest maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Also, the age differences in that show are really well. This is not about Community. This is
Yes.
about Ready or Not. See, we can't even talk about Ready or Not. So excited to talk about Community.
Yeah. Anyway, what were we talking about? Tonal differences. I don't really have anything else to say about it. It's just that was the major thing that I was grading on with this.
Yeah.
I guess there's only really two other things I want to talk about. The first one is the premise. So I kind of meant to open with this because this is, I think it's fine that we didn't, but this is kind of what I think are the movie's strongest points in terms of story. One thing I can say for the premise is it does check out logically. I'm kind of saying that begrudgingly because there are parts of it that I was like, all right, whatever. Like, I'll give it to you. Like, there was nothing I could point to that was like, that's a plot hole. So in that sense, like, credit to the writer for that. Like, I understand once you get to the end, like, you get why all the characters are doing what they're doing. Because at first I was like, if he knows that like this game is going to happen, why isn't he telling her about it, if only to warn her? But then we find out like, oh, it only happens every however long. Like it's so unlikely to happen that there's no reason to worry her, I guess.
Yeah.
So it does work. I don't want to say that it's necessarily a good example to follow for like not doing plot holes, but like if you need to cover them up, how it covers its plot holes is kind of obvious, I guess. So it's like maybe it's a good guide in that sense. Yeah. And like it does, I'll give it that it does have like a pretty constant energy, you know. Like the premise is like they need to find her and she needs to hide or she needs to get away before sunrise. So it's like there. Like I never have a question of like what's moving the story forward now. It runs itself. Here's the thing that I did bump on a bit though was that, and I don't know if this is necessarily something that should have changed that hard, but like there's never a mystery in this, I felt like.
Well, there was the overlying thing, like, would they actually die at the end?
I guess so, but like I don't know, I never felt like like there were things that were revealed, but there were no like reveals with like a capital R. I don't know if it's a problem because I don't know if there's anything in this that could have been framed as like a big reveal. But you know what? Let's go into that though, because like I think there maybe could have been a way that they could have made that mystery of like whether they're gonna survive it or not. Maybe they could have tied that in better as like a question throughout it. Do you remember when that question was raised?
No, I don't.
I feel like it was like halfway through, but I only saw it once, so I don't want to say for sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I guess there is some kind of mystery with that because like there's some characters in the family who are believers in like this curse and some that aren't. There was still something lacking in the drama there, I thought.
Okay.
Maybe I feel like this is something that maybe is more of a me problem, but I thought in terms of the premise, it didn't really play around with its premise that much. Like, it didn't play around with the premise of hide and seek as a game. She stops hiding after like 5 minutes into the game.
And start surviving.
Yeah, and like, not that she's not hiding for the rest of the game, but it doesn't, you know, if we wanted to call like the tagline for this movie like hide and seek from hell, like it's not really. Which maybe is okay, but I felt a little bit cheated with that, like, because you know I feel like that's a good selling point for it, you know, even with you know A Quiet Place really uses its premise of like you have to stay quiet, or in something like Split, Kevin's different personalities come out at like all different times and it plays around with that. Maybe not all 24, but like at least 7 of them. It messes with that. Or even it's a pretty it's kind of a dumb movie, but did you see Battleship ever?
No.
I mean, not that that's a great example, but like there's a scene in that at least where they use like the. It's been so long since I saw that. I think it was only in the theater when I was like 13, but like it was. There's a scene where they do kind of play Battleship with like the alien ship or whatever. It's moving to like different coordinates, and it's like J10 or whatever, or like it has the coordinates like the game Battleship.
Mm-hmm.
So like, and there was never even a moment like that in this with hide and seek.
Mm.
And I don't know what they would have done with that, but that felt like a bit of a missed opportunity.
What about escape room? You wrote escape room down. I did see that.
I did not. So I mean, but that at least feels like a premise where it's like, does escape room use like the concept of an escape room?
Yes.
To
Yes.
okay.
It's like every room is kind of like a freaking saw room, but everybody's working together.
Yeah, I feel like escape room's a weird premise because I feel like the premise of escape rooms themselves are kind of based on horror movies. I mean, the couple of escape rooms that I've done, it's framed as like, get out in an hour or you'll die or whatever.
Mm.
So to make a movie about an escape room that's like a scary escape room, it feels a little weird.
Mm. I enjoyed it though.
Did you have any other thoughts on like the premise at all?
I like see the premise unfold in the trailer. I didn't. I guess from the title alone, I kind of had an idea of what it would be about, but I assumed the comedy would be there more. Like I said, I was really let down in the comedy. The trailer gave me a comedy vibe load, and I was like, oh, okay, this looks like something I'd enjoy with my family because we like Clue so much. Modern day Clue, right? No, it was okay.
Yeah, and well, even to tie in with that, like Clue, and again, I don't think this is a modern day Clue either, but it is in a very similar house. Like it wants you to get a Clue vibe from it.
Yeah.
And that was something that I think could have been exploited too. Like in a house like that, there's the dumbwaiter system. There was like the weird axes and stuff. They could have used the house a little better, I thought.
Yeah, they're kind of just walking around and then staring at monitors and then trying to kill her on the sacrificial table. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Because in Clue, and granted, that's based off a board game that's all about using the different rooms. Like, that's a part of the board game. But they use the rooms in that movie to really good effect, where it's like pointing all around the house.
They split up and secret rooms, passageways, and all of that.
Right. And this house clearly has, like the one in Ready or Not, it has the dumbwaiter system. It has that secret hallway thing that Alex brings her to at the one point. Like,
and that was the only time it was used.
Yeah, and part of me thought, like, okay, maybe this is a budgetary restriction. Because the budget on this is, it's $6 million, which isn't big, but it's something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and, like, there's no big actresses. Like, Andie MacDowell is the only name that I recognized, and she's not, like, huge anymore.
Samara Weaving, she was in The Babysitter, bro.
I never saw that.
She's also Hugo Weaving's niece, so...
Oh, I see that now. I didn't know that. I totally see the resemblance now, though.
Yeah, now she's on a Netflix TV show thing called Hollywood. I don't know how big a role in that is, but she's on the poster, so...
Must be decently big, then.
Yeah. There's like 5 other characters she's with.
Yeah, I think she's kind of a rising star now. But I'd never heard of her before this.
I kind of knew about her because I'd watch these kill counts on YouTube, and I saw The Babysitter and how many people, like kill counts, you just count up the amount of people that die in horror movies and how they die. But it's much more light in tone compared to just normal kill counts where there'll just be a number at the bottom and it'll just show the death and move on to the next one. Like there's like a host and everything, and the guy's like lighthearted, which allowed me, like, I'm not the greatest at horror movies. Like I'll be terrified after I see a horror movie. I'll be like, oh no, there's a slasher coming to get me now because I saw this movie. But watching that, I watched The Babysitter, and then I was going to watch Ready or Not because it was also Samara Weaving. He suggested to go watch the movie before watching the kill count, and I was like, well, first of all, he's never done that for any of the videos I've seen. And Mason also suggested watching it, so you know what? That's when I asked my mom if we could rent it for when she visited in person. Yeah, that's how I ended up watching it.
So if we're talking about themes, like, do you actually think this had themes in it? Just at face value, do you think this movie has themes?
Not really. I mean, there was a joke about the end that said in-laws, but, like, I don't think it really did. Like, they kept saying they knew each other for, like, a year and a half, and now they're getting married. Like, you're supposed to know your spouse more time than that, and all that, but, like, maybe that was the only thing I was trying to drive home, but other than that, not really.
I think one could make an argument that it is trying to do something thematic, because there are like seeds of themes in here, but they're not really developed. Like, there's a bit about marriage, there's a bit about like family, there's a bit about inherited wealth, but like it's not really doing anything with that. Like, there's, first of all, I think the main thing is there's not enough character work done here. Like, I don't know if you felt like this, but I felt like they almost skipped the entire first act. Because, like, there was stuff that was paid off, I guess, in a way, but there was nothing that was set up. Like, and again, maybe that's a budgetary restriction, because, like, maybe they had to shorten the script because they didn't have enough days to shoot or whatever. So maybe that's it. But even so, like, if you're going to get into these things, like, you kind of need to do more about it. Like, if it's meant to be about family, we needed more time with the family.
Right.
And yeah, we see them, but like, there's just not enough done with them. Like, a similar movie to that, I don't know if you've seen it, is Crazy Rich Asians, which is kind of a similar premise where, like, the main character is marrying into a super rich family, and she has to deal with like the dynamics of that, but they spend a lot of time with like how the family reacts to her, and like in particular her future husband's mom. Like, kind of the main conflict is between the two of them. And I felt like they were almost trying to do that here, because like there was a little bit of like Alex being a little bit torn in terms of loyalties between, I can't even remember her name, but Samara Weaving's character, Grace. Yes.
I had to look them up too. Like, I had to look them up for the character part. Don't feel bad.
Yeah, well, I think I remembered it well enough while I was watching it, but it really did not stick with me, and it's only been like 4 days. But yeah, like he felt a little bit torn between like his family and Grace, which is, again, that's like a kind of the main thrust of Crazy Rich Asians, and that was present here but not really developed. And then, I mean, in terms of other themes, if it's meant to be about marriage, then we didn't get enough time with the couple. It's maybe a bit of an unfair comparison, but like in Gone Girl, we get a lot of time with the couple in that movie. And granted, that's something that's all about marriage, so that's maybe a bit of an unfair comparison. But something a little bit closer to like this in terms of theme and genre is like Annihilation, which has a little bit about like a marriage that falls apart a little bit, but we get time with that couple and seeing their dynamics, and there wasn't any of that here. Also, if it's meant to be about class, we needed more of that coming up. Like, it was nodded to in dialogue. They're like, oh, you'll never be one of us. But we never really felt that. I mean, one really recent example of something with class is Parasite. Like, and again, maybe an unfair comparison because that's all about class. But, it comes up a lot in that. Or also, like, Get Out. This is kind of similar in premise to Get Out. Like, I think I got most of those vibes at the beginning, and they kind of went away after a while, but like, and like, that's more of a race thing than a class thing. but it is a very high class white family in Get Out, and you like feel the difference there, where it's like they're in a really nice house in a very secluded neighborhood, and like all the friends and family that come to the family reunion in that are like really wealthy and well off. And we didn't feel anything like that here that was like separating Grace and the family.
Right.
And then I guess the last thing, like, if it's meant to be about religion, then like you need to bring up religion before the like 60-minute mark in a 90-minute movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's exact, but I mean, it is a little bit tricky because it's dealing with Satanism, but like something that deals with Satanism as a commentary on religion decently well is the show Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, the Netflix show.
I haven't seen it. Mm-mm.
I haven't seen most of it. I've only watched part of it for a class, but like it involves Satanism, but it deals with it like a religion,
Mm-hmm.
like a regular one that more than a tiny amount of the population is part of.
Mm-hmm.
Like they threw all these things in, but I don't think there's themes.
Like you said about the couple thing, they only see each other like in that passageway when they split up, and then the next time they see each other, Alex is ready to turn her over to the family.
Yeah, and but basically, like that, I thought was the place where maybe they did. I'm kind of saying this through my teeth, but like I guess they did the best job with that, because it is like a decision that was made, that where he like does choose between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it is like, I don't know, the way he struggles with it just wasn't.
Convincing enough.
It felt rushed or something.
Like, I didn't see, there was no like build up to him turning on his wife to me. Like, I didn't see it coming. The kill count guy said, well, you should have seen this coming. I was like, no, I didn't. Why? No, why would you be able to see this coming? Because up until that point, he's like fighting for her the whole time. And then he's just like, you know what? You're not going to be with me. I guess it's time to reveal where you are.
But in that scene, like, I think the justification was supposed to be like, because she has now seen like how horrible his family is, and she's like, oh, I don't want to be part of this, so if we get out of this, I'm not gonna stay with you. I guess that was supposed to be the motivation, but like, then again, he hadn't done anything to prove that he was on their side.
Right.
I don't even want to say it got confused. It just like, there was so little that was set up there. The characters' motivations were about getting the plot where they wanted it to go. They weren't really about the characters.
Yeah.
Which is something that annoys me. I don't know how familiar you are with like all of his work, but like Tim Miller is someone I feel like that does that a lot.
He did Deadpool, right?
Yeah, and he did the Terminator movie this past year.
Okay.
And like in all of those, I kind of have felt that with him, where he's like, he'll have the characters have motivations, but I can really feel when I'm watching it that he's having them be motivated by these things so he can get something to happen. They're serving the plot instead of the plot serving them, I guess.
Right. Very dangerous. Yes. So, you have anything further to say about themes?
No, I don't think I do.
Alright, I'm gonna jump into what I had on the characters. So we're gonna start with Grace. Grace is kind of like the audience in this situation, but if the audience watching has already seen the trailer, they could have known what was up from the start, giving the film dramatic irony. I think that's the right irony, right? Dramatic?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she does her best to survive, and she really does everything right that I think she could have in the situation given. Like, there was never a moment I was, like, mad at her for a decision she made. Like, she was strapped up and ready to take out that butler in the kitchen scene. But then he was like, yeah, it's only for show, bro. Give me that gun.
Mm-hmm.
And I was rooting for her. But the only part I was like, why would you make this decision, was when she initially left the dumbwaiter, her hiding spot. But that wasn't her fault because she didn't know what was going on. Plus, she was also drunk.
I think if we'd had a better sense of time with that, that might have, because the way we saw it, like, I thought when she got out of the dumbwaiter, I was like, it's only been like 5 minutes. Like, even if you're playing an actual game of hide and seek, you wait way longer than that to get out.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you were saying, she doesn't know at that point what she's actually gotten into, but it felt too soon.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think, like, I had a feeling I might get mad at her for making decisions she made, but no, she made pretty much all the right decisions, in my opinion, in that situation. Plus, if she would have stayed in the dumbwaiter, it's possible she would have been found and killed more easily than she could have when she left. And just a side note, the screams are a bit much. I know it's a horrific situation for her, and she's trying to survive, but God, those screams were a lot to hear, to listen to. Like, the one at the very end when she hops off the table and is, like, waving the knife around at the family, like, bro. The kill count guy referred to it as a banshee. He says she lets off one last banshee scream before the movie gets ready to wrap up. And I'm like, yeah, that just about describes it, because she screams a lot in this movie. And like I said, I get it, and it makes sense. But damn if it wasn't annoying.
I didn't really find her screaming was annoying. I thought the way that they, like, had her curse in this movie was annoying. And not, like, a lot at a lot of points, but there were a few where I was just like, it felt so, like, I guess maybe it's kind of tying back to the tone thing, but it was like, it felt like they were throwing in a bunch of language for us to, like, take it seriously, and it so did not have that effect. Like, we've kept the rest of this podcast clean, so I'm not going to read it off, but, like, the part with the car, when the car was driving off and she, like, yelled at it.
Yeah, she just starts, it
doesn't feel like the way people talk, and that really grated on me. I was like, okay, that was just stupid. Like, and it's not like I'm against, like, having language in a movie, but, like, if you're gonna use it in a way that feels real. And this really did not.
Yeah.
It wasn't, like, a huge issue throughout it, but, like, it made me not trust the writer, I think, was part of it.
Are you familiar with Ruth from Ozark? Do you watch Ozark?
I don't.
On Netflix? Okay, because she's a character on that show that, like, swears, like, F muffin this, and I don't know S about F and all that type of stuff. But, like, I get it, because she's, like, in the middle of nowhere. Is it Missouri?
I think
Mississippi.
I don't know much about that show, but the Ozark Mountains I know are in Missouri, so it's probably Missouri.
Okay, they're in the South, but, like, she's not really educated and stuff like that. So, like, I get it there. Like, she's using a whole bunch of creative language. Plus, it's kind of funny. Like, my mom finds it freaking hilarious.
No, I feel that. Like, I think something like that for me is, like, Good Will Hunting. Like, there's a lot of strong language in that movie, but it feels consistent, and, yeah, a lot of times like, the characters are pretty funny with it.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like it feels real to how people talk.
Yeah. So does Wolf of Wall Street, too, by the way.
Wolf of Wall Street, I think, gets a little extreme. Like, that one, I think...
Really?
Wolf of Wall Street is extreme about a lot of things, though.
Well, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. I think Scorsese occasionally goes a little overboard with some of his language, I think. But, like, even with him, most of the time, it does feel grounded.
Mm-hmm.
Here it doesn't, I think.
Yeah. But that's all I had on Grace. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention about her?
No, I think it's a fair point that I didn't, like, a fair thing in praise of this movie that I didn't notice was that, yeah, I think she is a smart character. Like, it doesn't do the typical horror movie thing of, like, her, I don't know, opening the door when the killer's in the room or whatever.
Right.
If you aren't rooting for her, it's not because she's being dumb. And there was never a point where I wasn't rooting for her. Like, I wasn't really invested, but it wasn't like when I watched Jurassic Park and I'm like, yes, kill the kid. Like, I know this is, like, a little bit sadistic, but I wanted the kids in Jurassic Park to die. Did not like those
Oh my
two.
god.
They're just annoying. I haven't seen it in years, but I remember as a 13-year-old, I was like, you guys shouldn't be alive at this point. They've survived too many things. But that's another conversation.
I man, I hate it when the character is this smart in a horror movie sometimes though, because I knew once she got in the car and I looked down at the bar at the time bar at the bottom and we were only halfway through the movie, I was like, oh god, she's not getting out of this. What's gonna happen to where she gets back to that house? You know?
Yeah. Oh, on the car though, do you feel like maybe that's a little bit of a stretch the way that car worked, or like the number she called, or
No,
something?
it's not. It's not actually. Because it was in I don't know if you saw Horrible Bosses, but something similar happened.
I have not.
Yeah, they stole a car and we're talking to the navigation guy and he was like, this car has been reported stolen, I have to shut it off. Please wait for the authorities. But they're like trying to get away from some guy who's trying to kill him. And then the guy starts bragging and stuff and admits, well, I don't have to say anything else, but no, like I've seen it in other movies and I'm not sure what cars do that nowadays because there's no way, like those movies are kind of based in reality, so there's no way that's not a thing. I've never seen it, but there's no way that's not a thing.
I guess not. Like I've never seen one either, which is why I originally like was calling it out. I was like, oh, that wouldn't happen. But I mean, it does.
Yeah.
It feels like something that cars of today could have. And I get this is a rich family, so like if anyone's gonna have a car like that, I guess they will. So
Yeah.
I'll let that one go.
I felt so bad for her when it shut down. I was like, oh god, it's over. It's over. So let's move on to Daniel. So Daniel was the kid that told on the dude, the husband, when he was younger, on the aunt's husband, his grandma aunt, I don't know. I think his aunt's husband. He hates his family from the beginning. That's no secret. Like, he's also very drunk the whole time. So I saw him betraying his family from the beginning, considering he was established as not liking them to begin with. And it was kind of evident he also liked Grace from the beginning. So I could see why he was willing to do more for Grace than his gold-digging wife that he also admitted to hating. I don't know. I kind of liked this character. I thought he died pretty stupidly. Like, he's just begging to his wife, and she shoots him in the neck anyway. It's just like, really? That's how you went out? Like,
Yeah.
but I guess they had to kill him off before the explosion, because the explosions at the end were like for the quote unquote bad characters, because they were ready to kill her. You know, you gotta have a satisfying ending. So if Daniel, who was trying to save her, is mixed in with that, like, say he's driving her away or something, and then he explodes while driving, like, that's not as much of a satisfying ending as we got in this. But yeah, that's what I had to say on him. Yeah,
I guess so. I mean, well, I thought his death, that was something that I think I guess I mentioned it when we were talking about tonal confusion, but I think that was a major thing that contributed to that, because like you were meant to feel his death. I think like that was supposed to be a sad moment, but then with the maids it was supposed to be funny, or like the other people, which we already talked about. That I won't talk about it more, but that was a moment that was, I think, maybe the best example of like the tonal issues with it.
Another thing, how strong is that dumbwaiter, bro?
Oh yeah, that I mean, I don't know how dumbwaiters work, to be clear, but like,
yeah,
that did seem like insanely brutal. Like it worked like a garage door kind of, and even garage doors, like I know it's an old house, but they stop at a certain point. And like, was it an electric dumbwaiter? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was.
I feel like they should have something in place for that. I mean,
Right.
I know people aren't meant to go in there, but even if it's just like, I don't know, a tray of food, you don't want to break the tray of food in half. And they clearly have the money to do this. Like, why would they install a feature like that?
The kill count guy, I keep saying kill. Shouts out to James A. Janice, the owner of the channel Dead Meat, for the kill counts. But he marked that as the lamest kill in the movie because he didn't find the dumbwaiter kill believable. Plus, that was the only maid that wasn't killed in a comedic way. Like, it was kind of horrible. Like, some Final Destination type thing. And she also just stood there. Like, her body was halfway out the thing, but she kind of just sat there with her body hanging halfway out. Like, if you see the thing closing, like, you're not gonna move. Like, you're just gonna, oh, the dumbwaiter's closing. I'm gonna just chill out here.
Yeah. Also, like, for like plot reasons or whatever, why did she have to die anyway?
To stop the dumbwaiter from working, because Grace was probably smart enough to use it again at some point, which is why she was trying to get the maid out.
I guess I don't really see that as necessary. Like that.
Yeah.
That feels like they scouted the location and they were like, "This house is a dumbwaiter. All right, can we do anything with that? Well, it's got this feature. Let's use it." Like that felt like a very uninspired choice to me.
They could have killed that maid off like in a comedic way, like the other ones.
Or like, why did they need to kill off the maid?
For comedy purposes.
Like, really, why did they need to do that?
For comedy purposes. They already had a lot of characters, Evan.
But you were, like you were saying, that wasn't a funny death. Like, that was one of, like, the brutal
They could have had Emily
scenes.
kill her, Evan, for comedy purposes, bro.
Alright, whatever.
She accidentally shot 2 of the maids, and then she could have accidentally killed the 3rd, you know?
Yeah, that would have been better. Maybe a little repetitive, but...
Comedy works in threes, Evan.
Comedy does work in threes.
3 maids.
That, I was not really a fan of the way they used that.
Yeah. It was the dumb waiter.
The dumb waiter.
Yes. 2 more characters, Alex and Tony. I'll get into Alex first. So Alex is Grace's husband, right? I actually, like I said before, I did not see the twist of him revealing Grace to the family at the end. He kind of became like his older brother when they were both younger, revealing, being a snitch, essentially. And like I said, he was willing to do anything for Grace. Up until the point he asked you the question of whether she'll stay with him. And she doesn't even answer him, but he's like, oh, no answer? Guess I'll kill you. Like, he assumes she won't be. But she says nothing, and then she's like, bro, you hurt my face. And he's just like, yeah, that's nice. She's over here. Like, what? You were so down to help her. Like, you were willing to fight your freaking family this whole time, not believing the curse, and then you're just like, oh, she ain't down for me? Well, I guess she about to be down for this family because I'm a killer to survive. You know? Like, what?
No, I agree. I think his character had the most potential to be an actual character. Like,
yeah.
Instead of... Because he has the most things that he's struggling with. He's balancing between, like, I guess, you could call it his new family and his old family.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that happens, but the motivations feel false, I guess. By the time that happened, I was a little bit checked out. I was like, okay, this is kind of consistent with the rest of the movie. Fine. Like, it didn't ruin anything for me, but, like, no, I agree with you. Like, it was not as strong. It didn't feel right.
Yeah.
Well, I almost want to say it felt contradictory, but, like, again, if we were gonna, like, this is why this movie needed a first act. Like, because if we saw how much he cared about his family, or if he cared about it at all, because, like, I think there were indications that maybe he didn't. And then he suddenly joins them afterward. I mean, I guess that's survival at that point. Because I think it's fair to say his motivations kind of have to be a little bit wonky, because the way this is set up, it's basically either his wife dies or he does. That's kind of a choice he has to make as soon as the hide-and-seek game comes up. But even in that case, like, if you want to make a movie that has strong characters, give them choices that are choices. Like, his choice is kind of... It doesn't say anything about him, I think is the problem. That's not a character-revealing decision. And if it was his decision, that would be different. But it ends up not being his decision. Like, if the end of the movie came down to Alex has to choose. Does he sacrifice himself for Grace, or does he sacrifice her for his family?
Like, based on what they've been telling us, it would be him saving Grace. Saying Grace.
Yeah, I think that could have been... and honestly, like, that's all you would have to change, I think.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that moment. If he, like, he could have fought off his family to protect Grace, and then they all die the way they do, and they have, like, a little bit of a goodbye scene before he... I guess that would be a little offset by him bursting into Tarantino blood spatter, but, like...
I think that's where most of their budget went.
Yeah. Like, it...
These meat
But
cannons.
that, like, I would have been good with that ending. Like, it would have been an ending that made you feel something.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I was not that invested in any of these characters, but, like, then you're actually kind of saying something about something.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, like, even if it ended up coming off as a little bit lame, you're saying, like, sacrifice for the people you love. It ends up being, like, a theme in the movie.
Yeah.
And all you had to change is that one moment.
Mm-hmm. That's why I try to not let my writing, like, my plot dictate what my characters do. Like, I've changed things around to where my characters change around the story a little bit. So I'm like, no, they wouldn't make this decision in this moment, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a struggle that you go through, like, in any case, because, like, sometimes I think the character consistent choice is a little bit boring and anticlimactic. So sometimes it's... Sometimes you can't make that character choice, and you do have to force it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's a critique I've seen. I won't get into it too much, but, like, the last season of Game of Thrones, there's a critique I've heard of it that, like, part of the reason it might have gone off the rails is because, like, the characters stopped driving it, and, like, they try to get to an end point with the plot that was, like, quote, satisfying. It is a tough balance, especially in a story of that size and with that many characters. But, like, in this case, in something of this size, you can make the premise work for the characters. And I felt no care for these characters from the writer. I felt like they could not care less.
The last character, Tony, he's supposed to be the headstrong head of the Le Domas family, right? He's the oldest male. But... contrary to what I believed he was going to be, like, I thought he was going to be, everybody get your ass together and we gotta kill her. Everybody stay strong and we got this. No, he was, like, weak and unable to control his freaking family. Then he was playing favorites, but, like, in a non-distant way, like, you know, your brother is my favorite, right? Like, no, he wasn't doing that. He was, like, crying and whining with his daughter, his favorite, Emily, like, the whole time. And I'm like, really? This is the head of the family? Like, and I thought his sister was actually older than him. I thought she was, like, the grandmother. I thought she was supposed to be the head, but I didn't know they were siblings, which was odd.
I think that was a major thing that should have happened, is we should have known what the dynamic was, because I was like, wait, is he the father? Like, it took me a while. Like, I thought he was maybe Alex's grandfather. And then it's like... This is why this movie needed a first act.
Yeah. And then he ends up failing his family at the end. Like, I expected, like, more from his character and expected him to be more of a threat, but he's kind of just figuring it out as he goes along. Like, if there's a possibility of you playing this game and you're not even really prepared for it, like, what kind of head of a family are you, you know?
Yeah.
Of this, if you know this family's history, like, and you just play it with your sister getting married last time, like, I actually don't know if he was there. I don't remember seeing him, but, like, if your sister just killed her husband not too long, well, probably was a long while ago, but are you really not prepared for it? Like, she didn't even seem prepared either. I forgot her name because I don't remember anybody's name from this movie, but...
You're talking about the gray-haired lady, though, right? With the sometimes German accent?
The stoic witch face. Yeah.
One thing I will say in praise of... I don't want to say in praise of the characters, but I thought the actors did pretty good in terms of, like... Because, I mean, the character work in this movie is almost non-existent, but these actors, for what they had to work with, They didn't do half bad, I thought. Same with the directing. Like, I would hire almost anyone except the writer who worked on this movie, which is it's kind of a sad thing to say.
Being a writer.
Yeah, like I don't think, and not to say that they're like definitely bad. Like maybe they had some restrictions on them we don't know about or whatever, but I did think the actors in this did pretty well, all things considered. Granted, they did have some accent inconsistencies with a couple of them, but for what they had, they did all right, I thought. Did you have any more characters you wanted to talk about?
No, not really. Like you said, there should have been more fleshed out. Like they just kept adding stuff like throughout the middle of the story. Like Daniel's wife, she was like, "I'll never go back to being poor again," and that's why she killed him. Like, really? You killed your own husband because you never wanted to go back to being poor? Like, you're already rich because you're part of this family. Like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of moments like that I think you could pick out. I didn't remember that happened, but yeah.
And Fitch, I thought he was going to be funnier.
Who was he?
He was Emily's husband. I think it was Emily's
Was that the
husband.
guy who was watching the crossbow video on his phone?
Yeah.
That was kind of
Yeah. When I saw it in the trailer, I was like, oh, this guy's going to be like the funniest guy in the movie. He was not. None of them were.
He had a couple of moments, but like...
Yeah, where he was slapping himself. He's like, come on, Fitch. You be.
Yeah.
Come on, Fitch. Don't be a B, Fitch. That was alright. But other than that, like, it had it had more potential. It could have reached better potential.
Yeah.
I thought Emily's character, unlike Mason, no, I don't agree with Mason that she stole every scene she was in. No. She was goofy. Goofy as all hell. But
was she the one who like took coke
accidentally
at
shot.
like one point?
Yep. And
yeah.
Yep.
I think part of the issue was they all looked a little too similar. All the maids and like 3 of the women in the family all had like the same length, same shade of black hair.
Oh yeah, you're
and
right.
very similar looking faces.
You're right. The mom, the Daniel's wife, and Emily. Yep.
And that was part of the problem too. Like, if you'd made the family members look more similar, or even like, even if you did something with accents, like where they all had, like all the Ledomas had a similar-ish accent, and all the people who married them didn't. Like, I still couldn't tell you if you lined up all the characters in front of me. I couldn't tell you who married into the family and who was born into it.
Maybe it was a choice to differentiate from Grace, because Grace was blonde. She was the golden one, the one that escaped, the one that got out of it. Maybe it was a choice, stylistic choice.
But she's already in a white dress. You have a very strong visual cue that she's not one of them.
Well, yeah, Evan, I'm just trying to make a point, Evan. I'm just speculating, Evan.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, like, there's more they could have done.
Yeah.
And granted, budgetary restrictions, but like, still.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you can account that to budget. Like, you could have gotten a different looking actress, or even like there are all white people in this movie, which you didn't need to have. Like,
I mean,
granted,
one of the maids was like Asian or Filipino, I think.
I don't remember.
I think she was the second one to die, the one with the arrow in her throat. But other than that, yeah, I didn't even realize.
Okay.
Like normally, I realize that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, for a 2019 movie, it felt like they could have done more diverse casting.
Yeah.
Like, if this had come out 10 years ago, not that it would have been better back then, but like we were less conscious of it. But now, like, even Knives Out is about a really rich family. And even that one, like, the lead in that is Ana de Armas, who's Latina. And
Isn't
they
Lakeith
throw in Lakeith
Stanfield? Yeah, my dude.
Yeah, like, even with exactly that, and granted, much bigger budget, but again, I don't think it's a budget problem.
Yeah, they could have, the people who were married into the family, like, yes, the family was white, but the people who could have married into the family could have been of a different race. I guess.
Yeah, and in a way, I'm I'm okay that they didn't do that, like, at least with Grace, because if Grace is a different race, then effectively you have Get Out.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Chris isn't marrying into the family with that, like, race ends up being a major part of that. And since there is a little bit of a class thing there, that would have probably come into play.
Mm-hmm.
But, so, like, in that sense, it's fine. But, it is 2019. I think they could have done better with diverse casting.
Yeah. I think I realized that at first and then forgot about it because I kind of forgot about the movie after. Yeah, they could have. Like, actually, I'd still rather an all-white cast and have the maids be black. Like, that would have been worse.
That would have been that's a very specific choice. And that's something they do in Get Out, too, but it's for a...
Yeah, that's
like, that's definitely commenting on race relations in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In any case, I think... I mean, if you have anything else, feel free, but I think we've picked out just about all of this movie's problems.
No.
I'm sorry for anyone who liked this. In consolation to anyone who was a fan of it, if you're still listening, and I do want to apologize directly to Mason for this, because I know
Sorry, Mason.
Yes, sorry. But I don't begrudge anyone for liking this. I just don't see a whole lot to like. But, if you do... I mean, I can't talk. I like Nacho Libre. There is no justification for me liking it. I just think it's hilarious. It's not a good movie in any sense.
Shame on you.
I mean, I won't apologize for liking it. This seemed to get a decent critical success. Like, not critical success, but it's got like an average rating on IMDb. So I was surprised that I disliked it as much as I did. But if you liked this, don't feel any pressure from us to not. I don't know if anyone takes our opinions into account like that, but if you like it, good on you. I'll leave it at that.
We seeked out everything we had to say about it.
Yeah.
Because hide and seek, Evan.
Oh, we sought, yes. We found.
Since it hid from us, and we found it.
Ready or not, it was not ready for us.
Oh, snap.
Mic drop. Boom.
He got it. We'll end on that.
Ready or not. Yeah. Yeah, just a couple quick boilerplate things. You can like us on Facebook, subscribe, review on iTunes, send questions, comments, suggestions, requests into intanalysis18@gmail.com. We are on Twitter also at intanalysis18. I am on Twitter at Davos Watson. And where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Base Phoenix. Find me on Twitter at Jelani T. Kelly. I'm also on Twitch at JBasedPhoenix. And buy my book.
Yeah, Descended Awakening still available. I mean, I don't think it's ever gonna not be available, but
yeah, I also have a Q&A coming May 8th for the book. I'm like connecting with the next town over's local library. I'm doing a Q&A on their site, so look forward to that too. I don't know if this will be out by then, but
if there's a recording of it, we can link to that in the notes though.
Yes.
Yeah, so if that's all, thanks for listening. I apologize again to any fans of it, but we said what we said.
Ready or not.
Ready or not. Yeah, so we'll see you next time.
Peace. Keep talking, Ev. I want to hear your...
All right, I'm talking. Apparently I sound like I'm 7 feet tall. I don't know, what should I say?
It's freaky, dude. Say, your wish is granted.
Your wish is granted?
Evan! You're a genie!
Does it really sound that weird?
Evan, you about to hear all of this shit right now, bro. Wait for it, I'm gonna send it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mambo number 5.
Nope.